All right. Uh, Thank you both for joining me today during our Day of Heroes event. We were excited to be able to hire Caitlin Gleeson this summer to work our Haven from Hunger program, most specifically our summer lunch. And Caitlin is Gail Bowlds, who's on your top left there, Gail Bowlds' granddaughter. And Gail was one of our first board presidents for Citizens for Adequate Housing at the time, now Citizens In. And we wanted to just have a little conversation today about that and about sort of generations giving back or feeling that this kind of work is important. So Gail, you want to talk a little bit about how you got involved with Citizens In?
Well, I was working at St. John the Baptist Parish in Peabody and came to know Mary Jane Lee, who was the inspiration and the founding of Citizens for Adequate Housing and now Citizens In. Once you met Mary Jane, you became involved in everything she was doing. She was very persuasive. She was very compassionate. She was very committed to justice and providing for everybody what they lacked, whether it was housing, whether it was food, whether it was an ear to listen to. She was very committed to that and conveyed that to everybody that, at least to me. And it was hard to stay away from her and try to accomplish the things that she was also working on. So I joined the group. We were meeting at St. John's at that time. Finally got a lease on the building in Peabody on Main Street. And in 1985, opened the first shelter. And worked on opening that, making beds and getting everything ready. And then I served as the bookkeeper for the in-between for a number of years, and have just been involved in it ever since. Was on the board for a number of years and have followed it closely ever since.
Yeah. So before Mary Jane, this wasn't a part of your life?
No.
Yeah.
Well, Citizens for Adequate Housing?
Yeah, or just giving, were there other things you were passionate about prior to?
Well, I had worked with a group raising money for Haiti for a number of years since the early 80s. And my husband has been involved in an eye campaign in El Salvador for over 25 years. And we've just, I guess that's sort of the way we do things.
So Caitlin, you heard what your grandmother said. Where do you think you got your desire to be involved in this field?
Well, I think that was so my grandmother as well as my grandfather are both very selfless and generous people and love giving back. And I think that they served as great role models and examples of that genuine care for others for their children, including my mom and her siblings, a bunch of whom work in the healthcare industry and enjoy giving back to the community in any way they can, whether that's through being a doctor or my mom's a psychologist. And that kind of trickled down to me as well, and my cousins and my sister. And a bunch of us love doing different types of service trips and other type of volunteer work. So I think we definitely got it from our grandparents.
How did you sort of fall into this work with us this summer?
So I had a couple of things lined up that weren't able to happened because of coronavirus, but my grandmother had the great idea of seeing if I could work here, if I could help out in any way. And it's been really great. I think everything happened for a reason. And I'm really loving working at Haven, specifically doing the summer lunch program. It's been a great and really, really wonderful experience.
And where are you going to school?
Providence College, and I'll be a junior in the fall.
And you're studying specifically?
Business management and public and community service with a minor in theology.
Wow, that's great. So this just runs in the family. And Gail, your daughter, Caitlin's mother, also worked at the In-Between at one time?
That's right. When we were on Main Street, she had just graduated from college and was waiting for the fall. And for the summer, she worked as an overnight counselor at the building on Main Street. So it's been 3 generations of us involved in the group.
That's so great. Your husband, Gail, so he was involved with the Leahy Center that is now next to the mall. Is that correct?
That's right. He's an ophthalmologist, and was when we were married, he was in the Navy, and it was the Navy that brought us from Colorado to the Boston area. He was at the Naval Hospital in Chelsea, and after deciding to leave active duty in the Navy, he went to Leahy he was at that time in Boston, in Kenmore Square. Then they moved to Burlington, and then in about 1991, they decided to open a satellite facility in Peabody, and found that the what was a bank building over at the North Shore Shopping Center could be converted into a medical facility. So they purchased that, and while they were redoing that building to convert it to a medical facility, Leahy purchased what was the closed J.B. Thomas Hospital, and they set up ophthalmology and physical therapy at J.B. Thomas until the facility at the North Shore Shopping Center was converted, and he was the medical director there until he retired in 2000.
Wow. That's great. And just a connection to citizens in the J.B. Thomas Leahy Foundation has been very generous, both throughout the COVID-19 crisis, but also prior to that in funding our children's enrichment program and Haven from Hunger operations. So
Yeah.
That's a great legacy there from the old J.B. Thomas to the new Leahy Center. And I was so thrilled to hear the connection there. So that's great. Caitlin, did you know all of this about your grandparents?
I knew that he helped a lot with the Leahy North, but I didn't realize that there was a connection to Citizens In from there, and that he was the medical director for so long. Yeah,
it's great. I was just talking to Sean Lee, Mary Jane Lee's son, and we were talking about how, these adults in our lives were so incredibly influential, and it kind of was just rubbing off on us the whole time. But we were mostly just out back playing in the dirt, or upstairs playing Atari or Nintendo, whatever it was at the time, and not paying enough attention. I wish we had. And we talk about wanting to ask Mary Jane Lee questions all the time, both of us, for different reasons.
Yeah, and I just growing up knowing that my grandparents would go every year to El Salvador for a month, and my grandfather would, I'm sure my grandmother could explain it better, but he would do eye procedures in those communities, and my grandmother would always go and volunteer and do paperwork and administrative work, as far as my knowledge. And even when they stopped going, I remember my grandma would go around yard sales and pick up different stuffed animals and toys that she could send to give out to the children there. And it was just great kind of hearing about that. And now my cousin has gone on that trip, and I'm sure she continues to go again. And it's a really great thing that they've been doing for so long.
That's awesome. And you kind of glossed over it, but your 2 opportunities this summer were international, right?
Yeah, so I was supposed to go to Guatemala for a week-long service trip. And also, I would be in Sydney, Australia right now. It was a fully funded 6-week fellowship to serve at a school for multi-handicapped children.
Wow.
Yeah.
But potentially able to do that in the next school year? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can try to go next summer.
Yeah. Well, we'll miss you here.
Yeah.
But it sounds pretty amazing. And right along the path of those who trailblazed before you and your family, it's so amazing to hear all of this.
Yeah.
And so awesome to have, your whole family and all these generations connected to us for so many decades now.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Gail, what do you think of your granddaughter here as you listen to her talk? I see the big smile.
I'm obviously very, very proud of her. She's just a wonderful person, so giving and conscientious and considerate and compassionate and all sorts of things. But of course, I'm not biased or anything.
No, but we can see where she gets it. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for sharing this with our audience.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.